What's going on, everybody? TJ here from TJ's Take. We're breaking down some Thursday night football tonight. We've got the Rams visiting the Seahawks in Seattle. 8:20 start. Over under 49. Seahawks are favored by 1.5. So let's see what we got on FanDuel here. FanDuel, we've got a $200,000 top prize. A lot of other good contests to get into. There's a $4 with a big prize. If you go up to $25, there's a $25 with a 25K top prize, I believe. Hopefully this one isn't as terrible as the Bengals and Steelers game. That one was just horrific. I mean, the Jalen Samuels play, games like that with two losing teams, I mean, usually there's a guy coming out of the woodwork somewhere. I mean, just some random, but with that much or with that many touches was just insane. And him playing out of the Wildcat, what was it, like 7 plays at 2% ownership is just unheard of. So we do have Jared Goff on the road, infamously, I mean, just not as good, nowhere near as good on the road as he is at home. The targets, though, the thing is with the Rams on these single game slates, you have 3 good receivers to choose from. And I think last week when they had that shootout with Tampa Bay, all of them did well. I think Robert Woods was the top guy there. Cooper Kupp's usually my go-to if I had to rank them. It'd be Kupp, Cooks, Woods. But you just never know where the ball is going to go in this offense. You have Gurley back there. I mean, Todd Gurley, one of the best running backs in football the past few years. I mean, obviously took a hit with injuries, so he's not what he used to be, but still a guy who can produce. On the Seattle side, I think they're still looking to establish a wide receiver to take Baldwin's spot. It looks like it's Lockett, but, I mean, the tight end, Will Dissly, is getting a ton of touches. The rookie and DK Metcalf is a deep ball threat. I mean, he can go up there and get it too. He didn't have a great game last week, but he's averaging at least 6 targets the first 3 games. He did have 4 targets last week, only caught 1 ball for 6 yards. But a guy who they can get the ball to in the end zone. Some cheap guys that we can take a look at, and David Moore, deep threat. I think his average routes that he runs is over like 25 yards. So he can catch a couple passes and get, 80 yards, one of them for a touchdown at $5,500. That's a steal right there. Luke Wilson, they picked him up, and he actually got 2 targets last week. And, he's in play here. He could be a very, very sneaky target to help you win a GPP if he catches the ball in the end zone. As far as $5,000 guys go, I think we could pretty much stay away here. I think we have enough weapons where we don't need to go that low. We have some 5,500 guys I'm interested in. Tyler Higbee at 6,000, tight end for the Rams. Jaron Brown, who is actually kind of playing more snaps now than David Moore, kind of taking over that spot. Just a little bit better hands as opposed to Moore, who's just more of a deep target. 3 targets, 3 receptions last week for 50 yards. Rashad Penny, he seems to be healthy. So him and CJ Prosise, that's going to be kind of a toss-up. They like to work Prosise in, but Rashad Penny's getting about double-digit carries, or did get double-digit carries last week. So a guy to keep an eye on. Malcolm Brown, always have to take a look at the backup running back. He could get a garbage touchdown. They get all the way down the field, gets one within 5 yards. Or Todd Gurley gets hurt. A guy to consider, especially at his price at $7,500. Talked about DK Metcalf, Gerald Everett, other tight end on the Rams. Again, should be low owned, pretty sneaky. Had a lot better game last week, but all of these Rams did in a shootout like that was. So 8 targets last week, but before that, it 2, 4, and 1. So I kind of put the tight ends there on the same level between Higbee and Everett. Again, Everett being more expensive should be more popular than Higbee, but I don't think any of them or either of them will be too popular. And then Chris Carson, I think I'm going to stay away from tonight. Had a great week last week, had a great first week, but against defenses, against Pittsburgh, he didn't do awesome. He did get 8 points against New Orleans. I mean, not the greatest defense. These Seahawks just have yet to face a very good defense. Not saying these Rams are. I mean, considering Tampa Bay just tore them apart. But I don't think this is a game for Chris Carson. I think the Rams will do a pretty good job locking him down. And I don't think he's that great. So I think we have so many weapons here on a slate with the Rams. And then Russell Wilson, if he's running the ball, he could be a top scorer of the night. So I'm interested to see how much salary we can leave on these, and we cannot forget about the kickers in this one. I mean, Greg Zerloin on the Rams, this guy is averaging double-digit points a game at only $9,500. So as we saw, I think it was the Steelers game, their kicker was 10,000. I do not know why he's at 9,500. Um, I think he'll probably be the most popular kicker we've seen as far as these single games go. Um, I mean, I'm thinking around 25-30% at that price. I mean, he's at 15, 9, 10, and 13, so can easily make that top 5 and easily get his value. And I actually don't mind throwing him in the top spot tonight. A little tricky. Over-under's 49. I expected it to be much lower than that. So unless Vegas has something up their sleeve, um, I don't know. But I like Greg Zerloin, playing him in a top spot a couple times tonight in case these offenses don't do what everybody's expecting here. The weapons don't produce. They're getting downfield, but they're not getting in the end zone. All things that can give Greg Zerloin enough opportunities to take a step up above everybody else in tournaments. That would be huge. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it here. I'm going to go ahead and plug Cooper Kupp in this top spot to start, but any of these lineups I talk about at first, you can switch in any of these Rams receivers. I like Cooper Kupp. I think he will be, maybe him and Brandon Cooks will be tied for most popular up there. I still think Robert Woods, even after the week he had last week, I still think he's going to get less ownership than these two. But I think this is a good spot for Cooper Kupp in this game, so we can look to be different elsewhere. I'm going to go ahead and throw Jared Goff in there. Like I said, doesn't play very well on the road. But again, when he was in Cleveland, he did manage to scrape up 16 points. That was enough to put him in the top 5. He's not terribly expensive at all. I mean, 14.5 for a quarterback. He's right there on the line, I guess. For some reason, I thought he was 13.5. 14.5 is right on the line, but I think we can still fit him in there. But yeah, at 14.5, I'll talk about this later, but don't be afraid to take him out and maybe replace him with someone else if your lineup is looking if you're looking like you're not leaving enough salary there. I like throwing Russell Wilson in here. I mean, if he uses his legs, he's easily going to break that top 5 as well. I don't care if he's 15,000. I think we have enough cheap guys on this slate where we can work around it. I'm going to go ahead and plug Greg Zerloin in, and that leaves us $8,000. And I immediately want to come down to David Moore or Jaron Brown, just because we don't have one of Russell Wilson's targets yet. So I'm going to go ahead and plug Jaron Brown in here, and that'll leave us $1,500. I don't think this is the craziest lineup in the world. It's not super unique. I definitely think other people will have it. But like I said, we can just pick one player out of here, and let's change it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and take Goff out of there. And let's go plug a guy like Todd Gurley. And you immediately leave $4,500 on the table. And Gurley is a guy who can definitely score as many points as Goff or get better value. I mean, Goff is $3,000 more. Gurley is, all he has to do is fall in the end zone a couple times. And when they get down on the 1, Cooper Kupp gets a bunch of receptions, kick a few field goals, and Russell Wilson goes to Jaron Brown. And that's what happens in the game. That's your situation. You're leaving $4,500 salary on the table. I love that build. So just going in there and changing one guy when you're looking at a lineup and you might think, I'm playing the big tournament here. This looks like a lineup. I'm only leaving $1,500. A lot of people might have this. So all it takes is going in there, clicking on one player, look at the rest here of anybody else you can roster and think, can this guy get close to or score more than the guy I have in there now? So let's kind of go more Seahawks based here and plug Tyler Lockett in there up top. And then we're obviously going to follow him with Russ Wilson. And I like going, if we plug in Lockett in up there, I kind of like pairing him with, um, I do like Disley, but I'm just afraid we aren't getting enough Rams exposure if we do those three. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone right now, and I'm going to come in here and get Brandon Cooks and then go grab Zerloin again and see what that leaves us. That leaves us with 12-5. So yeah, I don't have a problem coming down here and grabbing Disley as well and leaving 2,500 on the table. So we have Lockett up top, followed by Russell Wilson, Brandon Cooks, Zerloin, and Disley. One thing we can do here, let's say it bothers me taking Russell Wilson out of this spot, but if we did that and we came down here and grabbed a guy like Cooper Kupp, who definitely has the potential to do that, and both of these receivers, we've seen it before, both Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks can both go off in the same game, no problem. That'll leave us 4,500 on the table. The only change I might make in that is we still have Greg Zerloin in there to make it a little less popular. We can take Zerloin out. We still have $14,000 to work with. I like plugging in Jason Myers. Go with the other kicker. Or we can go with a guy like Gurley again. We can go with the other receiver. Or we can go with Goff. We can't go with Goff. We're $500 short. Yeah, I like going ahead and plugging in Jason Myers here. You're leaving $5,500 on the table. And if somebody were to have that lineup, they're more likely to have the lineup with Zerloin in there as opposed to Myers. So go ahead and just make that a little different. We're already a little different with Lockett up top and no quarterbacks. But if we go ahead and plug Jason Myers in there, that would be nice. The only thing that bothers me is we have two of Russell Wilson's targets. So that makes me believe we would have to take Disley out of there. And then that's where I like coming up and grabbing a Chris Carson if you have to. Or you can go grab Jared Goff and leave 1,000. And let's say Tyler Lockett gets a touchdown. He gets a lot of passes to him, but the Rams are playing pretty good on defense. Russell Wilson's not doing much. They're just getting field goal territory a couple times. And then this Rams offense is doing okay, but not so great where it knocks Lockett out of that top spot. So another approach I want to go with this is what we just kind of did there, but I wanted to go no kickers and no quarterbacks in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug Cooks up there. It can be anybody. Cooks, Kupp, Lockett, Disley. And then I want to go Jaron Brown. This is what's tricky because I want to pick 4 skill guys who can just rack up a ton of points in case this is a shootout like we saw before. So I think we can go ahead and grab a DK Metcalf. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, let's just go ahead and go with DK Metcalf, even though I do like Jaron Brown a little bit better, or a Todd Gurley. I don't think that'll separate us enough. Like if you plug Todd Gurley in there, it's 2,500. I do like that lineup. And don't be surprised if it is just 5 skill positions who wins this tonight. Especially in a Rams game where they spread the ball around, and in a Seahawks game where it could be low scoring enough where the quarterbacks don't quite get there. So on targets alone, just touches alone, and just raw yards, this could be what wins it for you, is just 5 skill guys. Now I want to make one with both quarterbacks in here. I'm going to go ahead and plug Goff up top, just kind of getting away from everybody else who might have 2 quarterback sets. I think if they do and they played one in their top spot, they're more likely to have Russ up there. So that just makes this a little bit different. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw Disley in there because I'm only going to have 1 Seattle target in this one. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab, because I want this to be a 2 tight end lineup, I'll go ahead and grab Cooks again. And then I'm going to go grab Higbee. And that'll leave us 2,500. I know it's not a ton, but I think it leaves us enough with that 2,500. I'm sorry, that leaves us enough with having Higbee in there at such low ownership. 2,500 is definitely enough to leave that on the table, especially playing 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks. The only thing that bugs me with this one is now that I am doing this, I kind of like Brandon Cooks up top instead of Goff, because if we're making this build, then you do expect a touchdown, especially, well, yeah, I do like Cooks up there. It's just Goff on the road. If he is throwing a touchdown to both of them, it doesn't really matter where Higbee is. I don't think it matters where Goff is, because Cooks isn't just going to score a touchdown. He's going to get good yards behind it if he does get in the end zone. So I think the safer play is throwing Cooks in there. And I'm trying to figure out a way we can be super crazy here and leave about 6,000 on the table. It's just so hard with this build. You have to do something super crazy. So I think the only way to do that is putting Russ here up top. And I like coming down and grabbing David Moore. And let's go DK Metcalf. No matter how bad these Seahawks do want to get Lockett the ball, I mean, he does seem like their main guy behind Disley. I think they're not afraid to spread it around. I'm sure they have a bunch of sets getting all these guys the ball, kind of like the Bears do. Allen Robinson seems to be their guy, but they'll definitely spread it around. And you could see a game where Allen Robinson only gets, 4 touches. Tyler Lockett's kind of in that same position. So if we're going to be super sneaky here and really go for that 200,000 auto ourselves, let's just try and make a build where the Seahawks go nuts and not throw in as many Rams guys. With all these weapons the Rams have, if you kind of fade them all except for one, you could be setting yourself up. You're automatically separated from the field. So if you have Russ Wilson up top, let's say they just have a great game, 3 of his targets, Moore, Metcalf, Disley, then you can pick whichever weapon on the Rams you want. I like Cooper Kupp. That'll leave you 8,500 on the table. And if you don't love that, go ahead and take Metcalf out. You can plug in Lockett. If you like Lockett a lot better, you're still leaving 5,500 on the table. If you really need another target here, go ahead and grab Brandon Cooks. I think we did something like this similar before. You're leaving 4,500 on the table. You have both of those targets in there that you really like. It is surprising that Robert Woods is more expensive than Kupp and Cooks. So I think you're almost being more different by throwing Woods in there and leaving less salary. So if you have Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, with Russell Wilson up top and his 2 targets and David Moore and Will Disley, and you're leaving 3,000, I think that could be more different than throwing Cooks in there instead of Woods and leaving 4,500. I honestly think that lineup will be more popular. Anyways, I'm expecting this game to go a little lower scoring than that. I don't think it's going to hit 49. But, how often is Vegas wrong? I would just make lineups both ways. I love the kickers here, especially Zerloin. I think you're probably going to have him in that top. And I also think you're probably going to have Russ. So if you want to start building from there and then just start throwing 3 guys in, that would be my approach to it. And just kind of mixing him up. I do love Zerloin in that top spot, so I'll go ahead and make one like that, because that's what I was talking about before. So if we go ahead and plug Zerloin in the top spot, follow with Russ, and then Russ's favorite target and Disley. And then I just want skill guys after that. I'm going to go ahead and get Gurley because it's always good to pair running back with a kicker. And then I can go grab Cooks here and leave 2,000 on the table. So it's Zerloin up top, Russell Wilson, Will Disley, Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks. If you don't like Gurley, you can go ahead and take him out, plug the other kicker in. You leave 5,000 on the table. Zerloin, Wilson, Disley, Myers, and Cooks. Love that build. If you want to pair, like I said, I don't love Chris Carson in this one. So if you want to take Disley out and put Chris Carson in and only leave 3,000, that could be a way to go. But again, don't love it by any means. I don't like playing Todd Gurley and Chris Carson together at all. Both of them have very high chances of, just not even getting double digits. So pairing them together, yeah, it could be a chance, but I don't think it's worth it, considering I do think there will be a good amount of people, considering it is the running back position, who play them together. I'm going to go ahead and let the other people do that and separate myself from them. And I don't know if they're trying to be sneaky or what, because usually on a single game it is a good play to have both running backs in, but I don't think this is that type of game. Other than that, we've got baseball going. Not as quite of as an exciting game last night as the Nationals game was, but we've got both games going on. Well, the Cardinals and Braves are playing right now, and then we've got another game later. I'll try and get on and break down some of those two-game slates are some of the best ones to play in baseball. I know a lot of people would prefer the single or obviously a bigger slate, but when the playoffs hit, some of those two games are a lot of fun to play and actually take some strategy, and stacking is very key because you're essentially just picking mini stacks on each team or just doing a whole game stack and just picking out the right players. So I'll try and do a podcast about that next one we get, which should be tomorrow actually. Other than that, good luck tonight and send me your screenshots.